The Road Accident Fund handles huge amounts of money, and it's believed to be government's second biggest burden after Eskom. The Auditor-General says the RAF's liabilities include debt are well over 360 billion. But the fund claims that's not true and that the figure is actually around 30 billion rand. It says there's progress in ensuring it doesn't lose more money to attempts of corruption. eNCA's Pule Letshwiti-Jones has more on that story.
In April 2021, we do understand that the Road Accident Fund changed its accounting policy framework from the International Financial Reporting Standards to, of course, the International Public Sector Accounting. And the Auditor-General has argued that this is one of the reasons why it led to its abilities piling up to approximately 300 billion rand. But of course, we know that RAF has not dismissed this, saying that it has been working hand in hand closely with the Auditor-General, and that it's also working towards a more transforming and transparency policy which can ensure that RAF's reserves and, of course, financial reservations do not get depleted even much more. But joining us now is the CEO from RAF, Mr. Letolo. Thank you very much for joining us on eNCA. Now, quite a job that you've taken, a task that you've taken to ensure that you bring RAF back on its feet. How has it been like, and how's the transparency and transformation road to that been like?
It has been quite daunting, but I think it's something that someone had to do. There's been pushbacks, as we have said, from different quarters, especially those who benefited from the previous system, who continue to want to keep the status quo. I mean, everyone who have studied anything with systems analysis will tell you that the biggest thing in systems and replacement of systems is that there would always be system resistance. So we expected this pushback, but I don't think that we expected it to be this much.
Tell us about the law firms you've now mentioned. What does this mean? Are you working hand in hand with them? And are claimants receiving what is supposed to be theirs?
Well, we wouldn't know. What we know is that we are paying them, and they are what we call plaintiff attorneys, which is they represent claimants. There was an issue about payments that were being paid to other people, and we thought that in the interest of transparency, the top 20 law firms must be released every quarter so that every South African knows who gets paid. The reality is that what South Africans should know is that a law firm can only take to the maximum, that is if there is a contingency fee agreement of 25% of the money that is being paid by RAF, and not more than that.
And just on that as well, we know that there's currently a court case between yourself and the Auditor-General of South Africa. Just a bit of clarity there, what does it mean? And has, of course, RAF been, or rather faulted in its liabilities to the tune of about 300 billion? Just a bit of context on that.
No, that's actually an actuarial liability. That's how it's calculated. And that actuarial liability suggests that we are an insurer. And IFRS 4, which is accounting for insurance contract, was used in the past. In 2020, the IPSAS-B, which is International Public Sector Accounting Standard Board, issued a standard, which is IPSAS 42, which we used in developing an accounting policy that better looks at our financials and produces better financials from a point of view of what we are in reality, which is a social benefit scheme. So as a social benefit scheme, we are counted using that, and of course, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. But what we want to reiterate is the fact that that decision was taken long before the calculations were done. The decision was taken, the accounting policy was adopted. In applying that accounting policy, then we arrived at the numbers that we have arrived at.
You mentioned a bit of a problem you've experienced as well with unprincipled law practitioners, and of course some medical practitioners as well. How has this impacted your progressive work going forward?
Well, it has been difficult. For instance, we asked for minimum information. We found that most of the RAF claims that we received were empty, did not have even things like your accident reports. We have found cases where some of the court orders are fraudulent. And there's been just that. It's a cesspool where you find a lot of things that are going wrong from these law firms, trying to enrich themselves. And really, even if they get this money never really goes to the beneficiaries. So our aim is to put a claimant-centric system in place which tends to upset them. The aim is to pay the oldest claimant first and quickly, as quickly as possible. For them, of course, the longer it takes, the more money they make. I mean, you can see the amount of monies that we were in legal costs, which to us is a problem. So we seek to ensure that we lower those legal costs. We want to reduce this administrative cost from 40% that the minister has stated to about 10% of the money that we receive.
So Letshwiti, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
As CEO at RAF, Mr. Letshwiti, they're giving us some clarity as to how their turnaround strategy to try and bring RAF back on its feet will be implemented, but also saying that they're working hand in hand with the Special Investigative Unit to ensure that they unravel some of the corruption allegations that have been going on as to how money was allegedly siphoned to other entities, including law firms as well.